Now we will talk further about pragmatics and critical discourse analysis. And in this regard, I'll talk about cooperative principle and how this could be employed in general discourse analysis or critical discourse analysis. We'll also see how this relationship can be helpful in understanding various aspects of critical discourse analysis. In the beginning, I'll just talk about what conversational implicature or what cooperative principle is. Cooperative principle is a kind of general assumed understanding between speakers or participants in a conversation. In pragmatics, it's generally believed that the speaker and the hearer or any participants in a conversation have a shared understanding, and they are believed to cooperate with each other, and their cooperation actually can lead us to a successful communication. If we assume that they are not cooperating with each other, it is not possible to have a fair meanings emerging from some kind of conversation. It's probably this kind of ideal belief of pragmatics that Fairclough has to criticize it, that pragmatics sometimes deal with the ideal world. One of the very famous linguists, Paul Grice, has proposed certain maxims for cooperating with each other, and his maxims constituted an overall principle of cooperative principle in pragmatics. And this somehow is sometimes is applied in critical discourse studies also. This principle, as I said earlier, is based on the basic epithet that people cooperate with each other when they are interacting with each other. And this interaction can be judged, this cooperation can be judged based on certain criteria. According to Paul Grice, this cooperation during a conversation between participants can be gauged by following certain maxims, which I'll explain in a while. And these maxims I believe in or focus on judging that the persons who are contributing to a conversation are actually conversating in a proper manner. They are speaking, or their contribution is as much as is required and is at the right stage when it is required. Sometimes people may take an early turn or may spoil the overall communication because they don't believe in turn taking. So it is also necessary to see that somebody contributes in a conversation at a proper time. Similarly, it's also important to see that in which direction the conversation is going. Is somebody's contribution to the conversation or some kind of communication is according to the purpose or not? That is also a very important feature to be seen in terms of cooperative principle. Usually, when you have to see that a certain person or contributor to a communication is following cooperative principle of or not, we look at it from the perspective of four maxims which were initially proposed by Paul Grice. There could be, and they have been proposed by other authors also, but in traditional pragmatics, these four maxims are usually followed. These maxims include the maxim of quantity, quality, relation, and manner. I'll explain them a bit further in the following slides. Quantity believes that a speaker's contribution should be as much as is required. It shouldn't be more than what is required. I mean, one should not keep on speaking just to show that he or she is speaking or can speak. Rather, he should measure that how much contribution is required. He should speak as much as is needed. If he or she would speak more or less than what is needed, then it would be thought that he or she is not following the maximum of quantity. For example, if you look at this sentence in front of you on the top of this slide, sit down at the newly painted table. If you look at this highlighted part of this sentence, at the newly painted table, if we believe in cooperative principle and we believe in ideal composition of this principle, we would probably think that the speaker would have said it to refer to or to identify a certain referent to which something is being referred to, or just to support a certain purpose of the communication. There might be a talk about the table or the place of sitting. In probably somebody might have asked, "Where should I sit?" And the other person would have said, "Sit down at the newly painted table." So it seems to be a very relevant answer, but and a very accurate answer in terms of quantity. So in this sense, we can assume that the speaker is probably fulfilling the assumption of quantity. But if the speaker has just added this information needlessly at the newly painted table, and in other situation, merely saying "sit down" would be enough, then this highlighted part is a violation of the maximum of quantity. The speaker should not have said it. So it needs to be very important that we should gauge that what information is important to be shared in a certain scene and what should be avoided. Another and very important component of these maxims are the maxim of quality. A maxim of quality is that we must say something which we genuinely believe is not false, and or in other words is genuinely true, or we should say something for which we have lack evidence. For example, if we are raising some voice against somebody, we should have proper proof about it. It shouldn't be like media talk in which people keep on raising slogans or accusations against each other without any proper evidence. But if we need to measure the maximum of quality, it should be ensured that whatever a speaker says, he or she has proof for it, or he or she genuinely believes that that is true. Whatever proof, that proof may prove wrong later on, but at the moment he or she is speaking, they should be pretty certain and convinced at their heart that whatever they are speaking is right. In this situation, we could assume that they are following the maximum of quality, otherwise not. And this can be a very important gauge to measure some of the political discourse also, because in political discourse we have seen that people sometimes fabricate certain information at the spot just to convince the audience or just to substantiate or support their political agenda. In order to measure such things, we could gauge the maximum of quality in such discourses. If you just look at this statement, where is the supermarket? And the answer is B, participant answers, I think there is one round the corner. And he or she further adds, but I'm not from these parts. Why so? Why the second part in the statement has been added? Just to make sure that the maximum of quality has not been violated. The participant should have said the first part only. I think the one is around the corner, and that would have been a sufficient answer. But there was a chance that the one is not around the corner, because the speaker was the one who replied. The participant B was not convinced because he didn't belong to that particular area. That's why he specified in the second part that I don't belong to this area. So be cautious. Just have a look, and do not believe me completely. And by saying that, the participant B has actually observed the maximum of quality. He has told the information as much as he knew, and has created a doubt himself or herself by saying that I don't belong to that area deliberately, so that he or she may not violate the maximum of quality. So say information as truthfully as you know it. And then relevance. It's about make your contribution relevant to the overall purpose of a communication. Leach has elaborated on relevance in a manner that an utterance may be seen as relevant in overall speech event or a communication event if it is fulfilling or if it is related to the purpose of communication. If it is not related to the purpose of communication or the goal of communication, then it cannot be relevant. Let's move on to see an example. Just look at the sentence A. where is my box of chocolates? And the answer is, it's in your room. The answer is very relevant and straightforward. But if you compare the same answer with the answer below, you can see the answer is the question is, where is my box of chocolates? And the answer is, the children were in your room this morning. No connection with the question. That shows that the answer is not relevant because it is not related to the goal of the communication. The goal is to know where the box of chocolate is. Manner is how clearly certain message has been conveyed in a communication. And in order to send certain message clearly, it should avoid ambiguity, obscurity. It should not be obscured by any additional or lesser information, or there shouldn't be any deliberate ambiguity created down there. It should be brief and orderly, should be in proper order. So a manner therefore can be seen, or the maximum of manner is about not what is said, but how what is said is said. It's about the manner. Is the manner clear or not? That is the prime concern of the maxim of manner. Leach distinguishes two kinds of clarity here. First is the one which is created through making unambiguous in terms of grammar or syntax, choosing right words in the right order and with the right helping verbs or any grammatical elements is something which can be roughly can be said grammatical clarity also. Then there is another one which is framing a clear message. Message should be framed in a way that it serves the proposed goal, or in other words, it is intelligible in the overall domain of the communication. So all these maxims which we have just shared are about creating a certain kind of cooperation between the participants, which is considered to be very important in a successful communication, and it has many pragmatic undertones and messages also. And such cooperative principles can be applied in critical discourse analysis also to understand certain kinds of political or socio-political discourses.